In the 1970s, Liza Minnelli was happily married to Peter Allen and seemed to have put some of her tragic past behind her. Then, one day, she decided to surprise Peter by coming home early, only to discover her husband in bed with someone else. Minnelli had no idea that he was carrying on an affair, and she was utterly heartbroken. But that wasn't even the worst part. Even the most famous children to come out of Hollywood can't compete with Liza Minnelli's pedigree. Her mother was stage and screen legend Judy Garland, while her father was Vincent Minnelli, the director behind musical classics like Meet Me in St. Louis and An American in Paris. In other words, it looked like Liza had it made from the day she was born. But looks can be deceiving. Liza Minnelli's childhood was far from ideal. She remembered times when her mother, Judy Garland, would get upset and threatened to overdose in the family bathroom, locking herself inside. One time, Garland stayed in the bathroom so long that young Liza, frantic with worry, used a pair of scissors to cut through the screen window to check on her mother. It was at that moment that Liza made a deeply mature realization. Garland was alive, and little Liza realized that her mother just wanted some attention. It's no wonder that Minnelli inherited some serious issues from Garland. Liza's entire childhood was filled to the brim with show business. She spent more time on the road or running around MGM studios with her mother than she did anywhere else, especially after her parents divorced in 1951. By the time she was 3 years old, Liza had already appeared with her mother in The Good Old Summertime, and she started to seek out the spotlight. When Liza announced her intention to follow her mother's footsteps, Garland's first response was, "Now, don't get upset because of the way they may compare you to me." Not exactly the response a daughter wants from her own mother. When Liza was 18, she convinced her mother to let her go on stage with her during Garland's performance at the Palladium in London. She wasn't an instant hit. When Judy announced, "And now, Miss Liza Minnelli," the crowd responded with a polite, lukewarm welcome. Liza gave the performance of a lifetime at the Palladium that day, winning over the audience by the end of her song. Afterward, the crowd erupted in thunderous applause for the new star. Only instead of being happy for her daughter, Garland's dark side came out. Reportedly, Garland yanked Minnelli right off stage after the curtain call and pushed her into the wings with a steely smile on her face. After her performance, the teenaged Liza met one of her mother's friends and protégés, the dashing Australian musician Peter Allen. The pair got along well, but Garland had a much more scandalous plan in mind for her daughter. She decided to get Peter Allen and Liza together. Unfortunately, it worked. Minnelli quickly fell head over heels for Allen, and in March 1967, she married him just before her 21st birthday. The pair dove into a luxe bohemian life full of caviar, star-studded dinner parties, and chain smoking. For a while, it looked like Liza might settle down as a housewife and devote herself to her husband. That's not how things turned out at all. In the late 1960s, Minnelli had already taken Broadway by storm and now wanted to make the big move into film. In fact, she already had a role in mind. She had her heart set on playing Pookie Adams, the quirky, fast-talking lead in the upcoming The Sterile Cuckoo. So, when Minnelli actually got the part, she was ecstatic and sent her mother the script to look over. This was a huge mistake. When Garland read the script, she went ballistic. She called her daughter saying, "But why do you want to play this? How could you possibly understand this screwed-up, neurotic girl?" Liza reassuringly replied, "Calm down. It's got nothing to do with you." In the end, Minnelli's instincts were right, and her performance was nominated for an Academy Award. Her career was really taking off, but her most tragic experience with her mother was just around the corner. In 1969, just weeks after her 47th birthday, Judy Garland tragically passed away from an accidental overdose. Her death sent shockwaves around the world, but for Liza Minnelli, it was utterly devastating. After all, Minnelli had witnessed her mother's heartbreaking decline firsthand. In Garland's later years, Liza often saw her in the dressing room, noticing the troubling signs of her struggle. Her mother's death would have a profound effect on the young Liza. The very first thing Minnelli did after her mother's death was bury herself in her work. Liza signed on to star as Sally Bowles in the film version of Cabaret, working with director Bob Fosse on an infamously grueling set. During the shoot, Minnelli endured long days filming in Berlin, poring over photos and films of old silent-era actresses to nail the early 1930s aesthetic of the movie. In the midst of her grief, Minnelli's marriage to Peter Allen took a nosedive it would never recover from. While filming Cabaret, she began a rather public affair with music producer Rex Kramer. The affair may have been her way of exacting revenge on her husband. Although Peter Allen certainly cared for Minnelli, he was hiding a devastating secret. He was actually attracted to men. Even worse, everyone seemed to already know Allen's secret. Everyone except his own wife. When Minnelli finally did find out, it was under the worst possible circumstances. According to Minnelli, she came home one day to a shocking discovery. Her husband, Peter Allen, was in bed with someone else. But the biggest surprise? That someone else was a man. Reflecting on the moment years later, Minnelli joked, "Let me put it this way, I'll never surprise anybody coming home as long as I live." But the betrayals didn't stop there. Allen had also carried on a secret affair with Minnelli's own stepfather, Mark Herron. Finally, after a long separation, she and Allen finalized their divorce in 1974. Despite her personal issues, Minnelli's hard work on Cabaret paid off, and the film became a massive success, earning her another Oscar nomination for her unforgettable portrayal of Sally Bowles. Then, in an unexpected twist, she triumphed over Hollywood heavyweights like Diana Ross, Liv Ullmann, and Maggie Smith, taking home the Academy Award for Best Actress. It was the ultimate career high. But in the months that followed, Minnelli would learn firsthand that success often came with a dark side. For all her successes, Minnelli's private life was spinning wildly out of control. She had never really processed her divorce from Allen, let alone her mother's untimely death. Overwhelmed, Minnelli developed some all too familiar habits. She began frequently indulging in pills, alcohol, and more during her nights out. Minnelli was taking after her mother, and it wasn't going to end well. To no one's surprise, Minnelli's love life in this hazy decade was nothing short of a train wreck. Although she jumped into marriage with director Jack Haley Jr., shortly after divorcing Allen, the union was over within 5 years. In 1973, Minnelli reconnected with a ghost from her past, Desi Arnaz Jr., the son of comedic legends Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. Minnelli and Arnaz had seen each other around Hollywood parties from a young age, but sparks only flew after Arnaz got out of a messy relationship with the actress Patty Duke. The hard-partying Liza was 7 years older than Arnaz, and his mother, Lucille Ball, was extremely disapproving of the relationship and of Minnelli herself, who she thought was a bad influence on her son. Although Arnaz accompanied Minnelli when she won her Academy Award for Cabaret, the couple soon decided to break up. They were barely together for a year. Minnelli's childhood had been filled with loneliness and insecurity, so in adulthood she was constantly searching for the stability she never had at home. In her attempts to fill the void, Liza cycled through a string of famous rebound romances, including director Martin Scorsese and controversial comedian Peter Sellers. But beyond her high-profile relationships, She also became known for appearing in the most unexpected places, always in pursuit of companionship, a party, or ideally both. For a time, Minnelli had film offers coming in left, right, and center, not to mention television spots and musical albums. And then one day, it all came to a screeching halt. Starting in 1975, she starred in a series of very expensive box office flops, so that by the time she played the female lead in the critically and financially disappointing New York, New York in 1977, she was officially considered box office poison. For Minnelli, this meant more bad decisions. Minnelli had two ways of coping with her demons: working harder and relying on substances. Unsurprisingly, this proved to be a dangerous combination. As the 1980s approached, she maintained a relentless work pace, but once the cameras stopped rolling, she drank more heavily each night. Her dependence escalated, and before long, she developed a full-blown addiction to prescription medications. Then, at last, she hit rock bottom. By 1984, Minnelli's substance abuse had spiraled so far out of control that she was barely holding things together. Desperate and at a breaking point, she confided in her father, Vincent Minnelli. With his support, she entered treatment at the Betty Ford Center. But her battle was far from over. While in rehab, Minnelli was married to her third husband, stage manager Mark Giro. Though their union lasted 13 years, her longest marriage, tragedy cast a shadow over it from the very beginning. Just a week after their 1979 wedding, Minnelli suffered a miscarriage. Heartbreakingly, 3 more followed throughout their relationship, forcing her to make an agonizing decision. During one of her pregnancies, she encountered severe complications. Tragically, despite medical interventions, the baby did not survive. Minnelli faced a very dangerous complication, a severe hernia that affected her health for months. Eventually, she made the painful choice to stop trying for children. Beyond her struggles in rehab, the 1980s marked a streak of relentless bad luck for the once sought-after star. One of the biggest blows came in the early part of the decade when acclaimed director Ken Russell insisted that Minnelli, and only Minnelli, should play the lead role in his film adaptation of Evita, the highly anticipated story of Argentina's legendary First Lady, Eva Perón. At last, it seemed like Minnelli might break free from her string of career disappointments. But fate had other plans. Russell's unwavering loyalty to Minnelli backfired in a spectacular fashion. Producer Robert Stigwood, frustrated by the director's ultimatums, fired him outright. As a result, Minnelli lost the role before she even had it. Adding insult to injury, she later had to watch Madonna triumphantly take on the part a decade later. By 2000, Minnelli had finally crawled her way out of addiction, and she abstained from much of the partying she used to partake in. Despite her new, healthier lifestyle, medics rushed the middle-aged Minnelli to the hospital after she contracted a serious case of viral encephalitis. According to the hospital, Minnelli would never walk or speak again after the illness ravaged her body. For a woman who had made show business her entire life, it didn't get more devastating than this. But a survivor as always, Minnelli didn't back down and entered intense physical and vocal therapy as soon as she possibly could. The results speak for themselves. For practically her entire life, Minnelli refused to sing her mother's songs, and especially not her greatest hits. Whenever anyone asked her why she avoided them, she would curtly reply, "They've been sung." But after her illness, she had a comeback performance and sang Over the Rainbow for the first time in public. Of course, she received a roaring standing ovation. In 2002, riding high from her comeback, Minnelli married the concert promoter David Guest, her fourth and final husband so far. But instead of settling into a fairy tale, Minnelli still didn't get her happily ever after. Only a year later, the pair separated just before Guest launched a $10 million lawsuit against her. Though Minnelli insisted Guest only wanted the money, his accusations in the suit are chilling. According to Minnelli's ex, the showbiz queen spent their relationship verbally and physically mistreating him. He also claimed that these violent episodes usually occurred when Minnelli was intoxicated. Whatever the truth, the courts kicked the case out in 2006 for lack of evidence, and Guest and Minnelli divorced in 2007. Not long after Minnelli's fourth divorce with Guest, Liza's former chauffeur accused her of battery, personal injury, and other breaches of contract. The driver also alleged that Minnelli coerced him into intimate relations under threat of termination. Unfortunately for any truth seekers, Minnelli settled the suit out of court, so we likely won't get any more details. Never say that Liza doesn't have a sense of humor about her place in pop culture. Starting just after her controversial split with Guest, she made regular appearances on the sitcom Arrested Development, starring as the man-eating MILF Lucille Ostero, aka Lucille 2. In fact, the writers made the role with Minnelli in mind, though they never dreamed they'd actually get her to sign on. Minnelli has always been known for her eccentricities, but one of her quirkiest moments came in 1997. During the first season of the action-packed spy series La Femme Nikita, she became obsessed with the show's lead actress, Peta Wilson. When Minnelli found out Wilson was heading to the Rosie O'Donnell show for her first major interview, she pulled some strings to have Wilson's limo stop by her house beforehand, just so she could offer the actress some personal advice on fame. Minnelli belongs to an elite club in Hollywood, the EGOT winners, entertainers who have won an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony. However, in a true Liza twist, she also holds a more dubious honor.
For exclusive perks like early access to new videos, priority replies to your comments, and to have your say on future content, consider becoming a Factinate member. On top of that, your support helps keep the channel going. Click the link in the description for more details.
She is one of the few actresses to have won both a Best Actress Oscar and a Worst Actress Razzie Award. Liza Minnelli has spent her life navigating the long shadow cast by her legendary mother, Judy Garland. From an early age, she made conscious efforts to carve out her own identity. Minnelli rarely speaks in depth about her relationship with her mother, Judy Garland, but glimpses of their complicated dynamic have surfaced over the years. Perhaps nothing illustrates their dysfunction better than the events surrounding Minnelli's first major opening night, starring in the off-Broadway show Best Foot Forward. Garland didn't attend, a glaring absence that the press quickly criticized. Minnelli had been so certain her mother would be there that when she didn't spot her in the audience, she rushed to call her at intermission. When Garland picked up the phone from her hotel room, she casually claimed she thought opening night was the next night. Hardly an excuse for missing such an important moment in her daughter's career. But the most heartbreaking part? Minnelli believes her mother skipped opening night on purpose, thinking that her presence would overshadow her daughter's big moment. Garland did attend the following night, but her true intentions remain a mystery. There is one final eerie parallel between Minnelli and her mother, one that shaped both their lives. Just as Minnelli discovered her first husband, Peter Allen, in bed with another man, rumors suggest that Garland endured a similar heartbreak. Some say she walked in on Minnelli's father, Vincent Minnelli, with another man, leading to the unraveling of their marriage and the loss of Liza's childhood home. Despite the many challenges she's faced, Liza has continuously reinvented herself. Through it all, Liza's resilience, humor, and determination have shaped her into a cultural force that continues to captivate the world. And perhaps that's her greatest legacy, showing us that even after the most terrible setbacks, there's always a way forward. If you enjoyed this Factinate video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible stories. Want a say in who we cover next? Join our membership program through the link in the description for exclusive perks. Your support means everything to us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.